and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Shahid Javed Barki Institute of Public Policy to this August gathering of this webinar that revolves around the issues and the need for women's role in development of Pakistan. So for today, we have a panel of experts who have carved a niche for themselves in the respective areas of women empowerment and development. So without further ado, I'd like to first of all welcome Mr. Shahid Javed Barki as we are trying to capitalize on his arrival from the US, as he does not reside here at the moment. So we have thought of taking his input and his take on the issue of need and the role and contribution of women in developing Pakistan. He would be our first speaker. I would also be introducing our other speakers, but that would go turn-wise. First of all, as we have Barki Saab in the line, then we have Ma'am Shaheen Atiku Rahman, who is an executive member of the Bunyad Foundation. And then in the lineup, we have Ms. Zofian Ibrahim, who is a freelance Karachi-based journalist. First of all, so Barki Saab is a renowned personality. He is a professional economist who has served as a former civil servant of Pakistan and has also moved on to have an illustrious career at the World Bank, where he served as the vice president before he retired over there. He has also served in the capacity of the Federal Minister of Pakistan with the caretaker government.
Well, I'm delighted at the introduction. Very flattering. I hope it is deserved. The issue today on which we would like to concentrate and get your views is the role that women can play in Pakistan's economic and social and cultural development. My view has been for a very long time that we are not treating our women fairly. We don't adequately compensate them for the work they do inside the home or on the farms or looking after animals. You probably know this, that the largest employer of women in Pakistan is the livestock sector. Women look after animals, they breed animals, they milk cows, they then give the milk to their husbands and to the males to market them, and much of the profit then goes into the pockets of men rather than shared with women. Let me make 2 or 3 points. The first point is that we have a very, very large population which is growing very rapidly. The census of 2017 put the rate of increase of Pakistani population at about 2.2, 2.3%. This is one of the highest in the world. At the time of Pakistan's creation, our population was 30 million. Now it is 7 times as large, 210 million. Women should make up more than 1/2 of this, but in Pakistan they don't. Their proportion is slightly less than 1/2. And the reason for that is that women have high rate of mortality, particularly at the time of childbirth, but also normally when women are of indifferent health, they are not given the kind of medical services they need, particularly in the countryside. One thing that I have noticed in Pakistan, and I'd like to have your reaction to this observation, that when I go and address audiences in Pakistan, particularly students, uh, I find that the ratio of men to women in the audience is about 25% women, 75% men. And because we are a highly segregated society, they don't sit together. Women sit in the front rows and men in the back rows. After I have spoken, I ask people to uh, ask me questions. And I've noticed that whereas women ask serious, searching questions, boys in the room ask, I hate to use the word stupid, but stupid questions, which has led me to conclude that at this college level, university level, I find that women are brighter than men. Uh, this is probably the reason that they have to strive harder to make it in a world which is very biased against them. Uh, but nevertheless, we have this uh, endowment. Women, intelligent women, clever women, wanting to do more than the society allows them. And if we improve their participation, it would result in uh, improving Pakistan's economic performance. I used to go to Singapore every year, and I did that for 10 years. This is at the Institute of South Asian Studies, which is an affiliate of National University of Singapore. And once when I was there, uh, I was given a research assistant who was from Bangladesh. And he came to me one day and he said, Mr. Burki, I have access to a very rich data source, which is maintained by two professors at Harvard University. And would you like me to use some of that to develop tables for you, some information in a tabular form? So I said, oh, that would be excellent. So he asked me, what should he do? I said, give me the data, make tables of the proportion of girls who are attending primary schools and compare that proportion with India and Bangladesh. Then also the proportion of girls who go enter primary schools and stay there for whatever 4 or 5 years and complete their primary school education, proportion of that, and compare that proportion again with India and Bangladesh. So he then went to his office, and a week or so later, he brought me some tables. And I was very surprised to see the tables that Pakistani girls were doing better than Bangladeshi girls or Indian girls. I said to him that this is unbelievable. He said, I thought you would say that. And before showing you the tables, I sent them back to Harvard University. And the professors who were maintaining this uh, fund of data looked at it and they said, no, your calculations are correct. Then I said, okay, and this is a very interesting finding. Uh, compare how girls are doing in primary education managed by the state and primary education managed by the private sector. So, as I had expected, Pakistan's good performance in terms of enrolling girls was because of the activity of the private sector. The public sector was doing worse than what was happening in India and Bangladesh. Uh, then I began to look into this, and there is anecdotal evidence available. Stories one hears that women, even if they are not terribly well educated, have 10 years of education, live in the countryside, live in villages, set up a little school in their houses, devote one room to a house, and turn that into a primary school. And girls from the village begin attending that. And that has contributed a lot to Pakistan's very impressive performance in terms of enrolling girls in primary schools. I say very impressive. This is in a relative sense. We could do much better than we are doing, but this is in relation to countries such as India and Bangladesh. The second thing is that we need to give women access to education in which there is a market for employment. Uh, we in this institution are now thinking of setting up a scholarship program which would provide funding to girls from low income families. And we are defining low income as something like, what is it? 60,000 rupees a month. And the idea is to provide these girls with financial support so that they can attend institutions which train nurses, pharmacists, women in technical expertise, and also general education and so on. And this is something that we are now going to launch very, very soon. And I hope the private sector will step in and provide funding to us. We will, if the private sector does that, we will match rupee for rupee what the private sector gives. You are, I'm sure, aware of the work that was done by a Pakistani scholar who for some time worked as vice chancellor of LUMS, Lahore University of Management Sciences, and he wrote a book on, I forget the title of the book. This is about charitable contributions made by Pakistanis. And his finding was that the amount of money that Pakistanis provide for charitable causes is the highest in the world in terms of proportion of GDP. I was surprised by that, but apparently it's based on serious analysis and serious data gathering. The point I'm making is that the time has come for us to now come together and begin to work for not only the welfare of women, but to train them to make important contributions to the future of the Pakistani economy and Pakistani society. I am one of those people. There are not many people like me who are very positive about Pakistan's economic future. When I talk to people in the United States, I run into a lot of negative talk about the country. This is also the case in Pakistan. There's a lot of negative talk about Pakistan in Pakistan. That is unfortunate. My view is that Pakistan has a very good potential, and that potential can be realized. And one way of doing that is to bring up women to the stage of development at which they can make serious contribution to Pakistan's development, its social improvement, its cultural whereabouts. So I think with this kind of speech or introduction, I'd like to have you people participate.
Thank you, Barki Sahab, for your enlightening talk, and thank you for sharing some anecdotal evidences from your past and your experiences. I really hope that not only for me, but it has really helped people to identify the issues and the gaps that we have been ignoring for so long. So data is source is a source of reliability. However, in in its real essence, many at times we are even misled by the data, not only by some local institutions, but by those that have certain credibility in the global market. So then again, one is rendered helpless. So now moving on, we have Ms. Shaheen Atiku Rahman. Thank you very much for being with us, ma'am. And about her, I'd like to say a few words first in her introduction. She needs no introduction, however, but I'd still give this formal 2 cents of mine on this, that she is an executive member of Bunyad Foundation and has served as a parliamentarian twice in the provincial government. She has also served as the Minister of Social Welfare, Women Development and Baitul Mal, for which her expertise has been widely recognized at national and international levels in the fields of literacy, education, gender development and empowerment, and other issues of socio-economic development. Over to you, ma'am. Please let us hear you out now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eamon. I hope you can hear all of me.
Yes, ma'am, you are
You
audible.
can?
You're perfectly
Okay.
audible. Yes.
I think I'd like to continue where Mr. Shahid Barki, a great admirer of his, that I think the biggest problem is that our data is not clear. PSLM says something different, census says something different, and the others, no one has got is on the same page, and that is a big worry for us because the whole picture is not clear. Women are contributing a lot, but unfortunately, their work is not recognized. And I've been hedging on for about 15 years that we need to update the definition of a working woman. Every woman works, but how can we recognize her work into the development sector? Most of the work she's doing in the rural area, because my focus is going to be mostly on the rural population, which is about 63.45%. Women are doing all the work, like Barki Saab said: livestock development, rice plantation, picking cotton. You say it, and they're doing it, but it is not given there. We have to improve the definition to make it wider, and I'm sure Barki Sahab's a little bit of intervention would take us a long way, especially when the definitions of are taking place now for the next census. A lot of things are unfortunate. For example, we have 22.4%, 22.4 million children out of school. And that is why, because we have more than 60% women who are illiterate. We have a population of below 14 years that is nearly uh, 44%. And then you have stunting, highest in the world. You have TB. You have a lot of minuses because the woman is not given due attention, and that she will when she is made literate. Can you hear me? Uh, and that is where Bunyad came in, which I am trying to focus on, that we move ahead and make women literate. Now, literacy does not mean that you have to take the child to school. The most sensitive age is between 14 and 25 years, because that's where the woman starts breeding and podding and having a family. And if her vision is bigger, she will take the children on to higher flights. She will send her daughter to school. She'll do many things. The change I've seen recently in the last 5 years is that fathers are sending their children to school in the rural area. I'm sorry, I'm not a hotel participant on all these huge conferences you have made of millions. I like to work outside. We have already touched the lives of about 25 lakh women and children in the rural area, nothing in the urban and peri-urban areas, slums and all. We have to talk, but what is that problem there? In Lahore slums alone, you know, for one toilet, there are 30 women going. Now, can you imagine that? We see poverty as some cliche, but poverty who's in it, they're just surviving. And somewhere I read it, 64% of our population lives below $2 a day, because most of our population is young. They say about 68% is below the age of 30. But what can we do? Okay, we all become mother-in-laws against the system. But skills is very important. I've been begging every government for the past decade that in the secondary school and the high school have small skill training through PVTC, through TEVETA subset. We can have the livestock department helping in the rural areas how to maintain better livestock. Today, our average milk of a buffalo is not more than 4 or 5 kilos a day, or one milking, while across the border it is 8 to 9. Why is the feed wrong? Because I've seen most of the trainings of the livestock is given to men, not to women who are really looking after that. So I think a policymaker should also try, even if it's difficult, to go and see what the rural scene is. We keep on going 10 miles out from Islamabad, 15 miles out from Lahore, but that's not the scene. Let's go off the beaten track and see what are the problems. Like this, I think if we start IT in a very strong manner, the rural urban divide can be decreased. Bunyad started a small program with mobile literacy. They have smartphones and they disseminate it because IT has accelerated the pace of development. Are we using it right? Are we using it only for cybercrime? Are we sharing information? So I think women now are very much wanting to learn and also earn. And I'm grateful to the State Bank of Pakistan, which has started a new initiative called financial literacy. It teaches women how to manage their household incomes. From there, you know maths. From there, you know division. From there, you know growth. So our mindset is too much set on the past. Stop. So what we can do is, I think the first thing we women should do is to network together. Us, the urban lot, with the rural lot, with the universities, with the local government. That is the only way we can go ahead. We are too much in our silos of ego more than anything. We love going to these nice hotels and having a nice meal and coming back very happy. And all our funds which have to go to rural women are spoiled there because there's no hotel which is cheap. So we have to move ahead and start implementation. My often quoted thing is NATO, not the Ukraine one. NATO means no action talk only. So many policies, so many things, but implementation is really what needed, and it is coming very near when people are getting up and making their own effort. But I think another issue is, one positive thing is we have to network, we stop being jealous and egocentric. The real issue is family planning. I've heard, again, nothing authentic, but I've heard that we produce every second 8 babies. The men have nothing to do with it. They feel very shy. They say no family planning because our macho pan goes. But Bangladesh turned it around when they started making the young mother literate. I'm talking class 1, 2, 3. Can she see if the literature for her own health? Can she seek expiry of dates? Can she see simple thing? I'm not interested that she reads Ghalib or Shakespeare or Keats, but can she have a workable literacy where she can be hands on to improve her life? So we just have to make a literate society. It is shameful that we have the second highest number of illiterates in the world. Percentages look fine, very beautiful. Now, for example, Punjab has a very nice literacy percentage, but when you go down to the actual numbers, you freak out. The actual numbers and percentages might be okay for rich scholars and all those survey types and all, but they don't show the actual picture. The actual pictures are numbers. The numbers are frightening. Today, Lahore and Faisalabad have more than 10 to 12 lakh illiterate women, but in percentages, they are the best. So we have to also think of ourselves. How far are we going to what the donor or the whoever wants, and how far is the actual problem which we can look ahead to? I think local governments, I came through the local government system into politics. I think it's superb. That's the only way where at that grassroots you can look into your problems. Is there water? Is the school teacher coming? Is there solid waste management outlet? Uh, does my child get an injection in time? Small things. I'm not talking of Keats and Shelley again. What we have to do is to get into the local body system, not to think that, oh, I'm so big, I come from a big class, I can't go to local government system. But let's forget power for a change and think of P, not for power, but P for people. So that is the change of attitudes. I think I just read recently a news, I think old word, but it's new, it's very important. Social justice, be they of class, be they of urban, be they of rural urban, whatever. Social injustice. When we, because of our English speaking minority, think that we are superior to the average, that's letting us down. So we all have to think that let's make this a better people, a better place. I swear to you, our people are suffering, but they're making a change. And mostly rural fathers are making a change. They're making the girls study more. They're making giving the courage to the girls to go and study, to earn. Look at me. I have about 300 centers today. Most of the girls, the fathers are saying go and work. They get pittance, but still they're saying go. The brothers are pretty jealous, but the parents are very happy that they are doing it. Many divorced women are coming and teaching and getting on their own. There's a new thinking that it's our future, it's our life, and we have to think of our kids. So we have to also, like Arundhati Roy's The Grasshopper's Voices from the Grasshopper or something like that. We have to think of from the people also. We are only thinking top down. For example, I got Shahid Saab gave reference to a very important university. I called the students here for internship and they said, Madam, we can't work. There's no AC here. How can we work without an air conditioner? Now look at those people don't even have electricity, don't have water, don't have toilets. Aren't we supposed to help them? We're going to only help our air conditioned, dressed up selves. So we have to blame. Bangladesh is there today because that people don't feel the social inequalities. We do, and we love it. I think that's enough.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for a very candid and a very interesting talk you just delivered. And frankly speaking, we have been looking forward to it. So thank you. So after these two sessions, I think that some of the themes that dominate our discourse right now are the need for skills development, agriculture, rural and urban divide, and most probably, and the most needed one is the rural development, literacy, creating alliances through networking, and something that just come to the fore, population planning and its very stringent, robust management system. So moving on towards the next and the last speaker of the day today is Miss Zofian Ibrahim. So in her introduction, I'd like to tell that she is a Karachi-based independent freelance journalist. She is also the current editor of the Third Pole magazine. She contributes regularly to the international media services and is also an expert in the themes of environment, gender, health, development, and she also gives consultancies to local and international NGOs. Something that is worth mentioning that she has been awarded the Inclusive Social Development Award, amongst others, by the Asian Development Bank. So thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us today. And the floor is all yours. But before you start talking, something of interest came to the fore. Ma'am, while going through one of your articles, I think it was one of your articles in the national dailies by the name of Women-Led Markets. So usme you had quoted one thing, could you please elaborate on it? The phrase that you had quoted was that if women can do the difficult part of rearing, I'm talking about the Women-Led Market article, that if women can do the difficult part of rearing, they can surely sell the animals. Would you please elaborate a bit on it? And I have some very interesting and very open-ended questions for you. And I would be, on behalf of the Barki Institute of Public Policy, would be very delighted if you just go make us go through the answers with your expertise and experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I am really delighted and actually humbled that I've been invited. And I heard Barki Saab and Shaheen, Atiku Rahman Saiba, and I feel there is optimism as well as a little bit of that we need to do more. Surely we need to do more, but when Barki Saab said that we've come quite a distance, I agree, and I can see that when I speak to my mother who's in her late 80s and I see myself and then I see my daughter. I think that we have made progress and leaps and bounds, but of course it's not enough. And I think a lot of it has already been said by Barki Saab and Shaheen Saiba, but I would just like to add that in our society, and I would like to add this before I answer your question, Eamon, on the women-led markets. I want to say that, women in our society are not given importance. And I think, but it's also because women do not give importance to women themselves. Women are influenced by internalized patriarchy. And we are just, it is such that we are continuously putting ourselves, we actually suffer from what many people call it an impostor syndrome, where we doubt our own abilities and our expertise. And that is the reason we have not come, forward as much. This is what society has done to us. So as everybody has said before, that women need to have more confidence in themselves. They need to network. Network is so important for women to move up the ladder, and it's not easy. And for that, we need support. We need women support women. And part of the reason is that, if women come up with good ideas, and need to kind of amplify their ideas, and we need to give them the credit, and that is not happening enough. When we talk about networking and how women can move up, it is because women are so bogged down with not just the work that they do, but also the family and the care that they need to be done. So that needs to be divided also. And so when we talk about how we enhance women's voices, we need to provide them the opportunities. Now, we need to give them the opportunities so they make effective choices and exercise control over their lives. We need to give them access to and control over property, for example. We need to provide them safe spaces. We need to provide them safe transport so that they can go out to work. We need to make sure that their decision making over family formation, like Shaheen Saiba said, family planning should be given. They should be given a choice. Marriage, even divorce, why not? And most importantly, we need to give them political and community participation. So I think all of this has been said, and I wanted to kind of reiterate and re-emphasize all this. But when you talked about the Mandi thing, yes, I recently did a story on, and it was the first time that, women were invited to sell their livestock in a Mandi. So I found that like incredible that, they were few, they're almost, women in our agriculture, they're almost invisible, as has been said before, they're not paid. But what made them stand out that day was that, without education, without economic support, without much mobility, they were able to go out step into a space which is actually a man's space. And they were able to at least feel and get the feel of how it is to sell something that they rear, that they take care and they nurture. And then, like Shaheen Saba said very, very truthfully, that actually the man goes and sells it. And the profit or whatever the amount is, the women don't even know how much they get out of it. And sometimes they don't even know what the real value of that animal is, but the woman knows. So I think this was excellent an idea, and I thoroughly enjoyed. I actually went to see that market, and then I wrote about it. And what really made these women stand out was their positive, optimistic, enthusiastic, attitude, and they broke so many barriers. So I think that was a very positive thing to do, and I think we should do that more often. It should be done all across our country. Why not? Amen. Have I answered your question?
Yes, you have. And taking the lead from your answer, rather something before the answer, you have touched upon a very, very pertinent concept of psychology that is also very close to my heart, not because I'm a woman, but because I'm a human being. And each gender goes through sometimes at some point of their lives, especially living in a society like ours, where sometimes certain psychological needs are not addressed. Rather, the confidence of a poor person, not in terms of socio-economic status, but generally is broken many a times because of certain maybe certain socio-cultural expectations and generally the norms. So you talked about the imposter syndrome. So ma'am, taking a cue from that, my next question is that what do you think could be the cause of women's psychological health still being treated as a taboo? And could you suggest something, a way around it in such situations? How to turn things around?
Okay, Ayman, now that's a slightly complex question. I don't think we have studied so much, and that's really unfortunate that we haven't studied mental health per se, not just a woman's mental health, but also men's. And with so many stresses that today's Pakistani woman goes through, this aspect is very important to talk about, but it is still not talked about. It's not, yes, it may be taboo, but it's also something which we have not understood, which we fail to understand, because we fail to understand the woman and the responsibilities that are placed on a woman. And I'll tell you something, that these stresses are just going to increase, given the effects of climate change. The stresses that women go through will go through because of extreme weather events, because of food insecurity, because of diseases. Only now that we started talking about mental health issues because of COVID-19, if you remember, and there are like so many studies going on, even in Pakistan, there are studies going on how this disease actually impacted women and men both. But we know that women are disproportionately affected by stresses, by anything that is, and the sad part is that we're not preparing for it. Although the realization has set in, we now need to, the recognition is now there. So we have to break the curtain of taboo and start training our women, because that is what is glaring in front of us. So it's also like the disease taught us that there are, that it has exacerbated inequalities, and gender inequality has also been exacerbated because of COVID. So I think that we need to recognize this. We need to train women. Jaise Barki Saab ne kaha that, it's very good that you're thinking of educating or starting some center where women will be educated, but it should be so that it makes them employable, and because that is what we need. We've also seen that with climate change, with all of various pandemics and all, and it's not that this is the end of the pandemic. Scientists say there'll be more pandemics, more catastrophic ones ahead. So, which means that migration will also happen. Migration is already happening in the South, if you all know. So that is leaving women with not just taking the burden of the man, but also taking on more burdens, and they're not really equipped for it, because they're not trained, they're not educated, and they're just too many responsibilities on her. So I think that the way to go about is to at least recognize and make plans accordingly. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. So basically, like everyone else, I've never been a fan of COVID. Haven't really seen much use of it. However, I think one should thank COVID for unleashing the need to pay attention to the mental health needs, not only in Pakistan, but everywhere. Because had it not been the case right now, I think another 100 years would have passed and women would have suffered in silence, not only domestically, but even in the other affairs and affairs of their lives. So I hope something can be done with it. So moving on to another point, ma'am, this again comes from an article of yours, a very well-researched article, I must say. It is cited over there that Pakistan has failed to own the menstrual hygiene challenge. Just briefly, if you could take us through this statement, please.
So, first of all, it's an uncomfortable issue. It's to do with toilets. It's to do with women's private health. And so we don't talk about it. But when I said that Pakistan has failed to own the menstrual hygiene challenge, it is because, we have adopted the 17 SDGs in our legal and policy framework. So we have to do something about it. And the menstrual hygiene actually is relevant to, and I'll just read it out because I sometimes forget. Goal 6, which is on wash, goal 3, which is on health, goal 4 on education, and goal 5, which is on gender equality. So, menstrual health in some way, directly or indirectly, is affecting all of these 5 goals that we have adopted in the SDGs. But so we've been slow in moving forward, and so we need what I was trying to say is that we need to invest in menstrual hygiene management so that Pakistan. Hello.
आप बोलती जाइए, आप बोलती
Yeah,
जाइए,
so that Pakistan, can bring back the girls in classrooms, because a lot of the times when women and girls do not find girl-friendly toilets, for example, in their schools, they miss a class, they miss a day, they miss 2 days. And it's so that is why I wrote about this thing.
Yeah. Ma'am, just a second, but I would like to ask you a question. Sir, could we take the questions later? We'll take a question later.
I have a couple of questions from.
Okay. We'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
Uh,
Shall I put it on mute?
No, ma'am, it's okay. But then you just answer. No issues.
Let me ask you a couple of questions. One of you said that women need to have greater confidence in themselves.
I said that.
The question is, what is it that needs to be done for women to develop greater confidence in themselves? I mean, I'm married to a woman who has enormous confidence, but women in the political space don't have the kind of confidence you're talking about. So what is it that we need to do? The second question is what is happening across the border in Afghanistan? Their religion is being interpreted in a way that it gives a very, very low status to women. I don't know too much about Islam, but the little I know is that Prophet Muhammad valued women, gave them a great deal of space when he was trying to spread the religion. Why is it that in primitive societies, such as the one in Afghanistan, my background is also as a Pashtun. Why do Pashtun in particular give such a low status to women?
So I'll try and answer the first question, and I leave it to somebody else to respond to the Afghanistan one. I'm not an expert on Afghanistan. So for the first question that you said about women, why are they not confident? I think a lot of it has to do with what you just said, that we don't educate our women. It's the best thing that we can do to our women is not just educate them, but to educate them in STEM subjects, the subjects that give them employability. Once the women go out, you will realize how much of, when they say कि हमें ज़बान हमें मिल गई, it's so true. And again, I'm not talking because I'm sitting here in an air-conditioned room. I actually go out in the field and talk to women when and these are their words, हमें ज़बान मिल जाती है. I went about 2 weeks back. I went to Peshawar and I rode on the BRT, and these were all Pashtun women, and it was amazing to see the kind of women who were traveling on the BRT. It just made me feel so good because I haven't been on the BRT in Karachi, unfortunately, but I know what the public transport system is here. And these women were from all classes, huh? They were working women. There were so many working women, actually. That was amazing. There were women in complete burqas. They were going from one bazaar to the other, from home to bazaar. There were students, there were doctors, there were just women with children. And, I spoke to some of them and they said that we were not allowed to use public transport, but because BRT is so safe, it is clean, it is neat. Our fathers, our husbands do not have to accompany us. They allow us to go. One of them even said that if it had not been for the BRT, I would not have been able to pursue my study at the university. So this is the kind of, these are basic facilities that women need, transport, a safe transport. They need safe public spaces to sit there, to interact, to be with their family. These are some things which are like, you're not asking for the moon. And when I said that that women are not given importance by themselves is because of this. As I said, this is how they're brought up. They're conditioned to keep themselves very low in profile, not to be in the limelight. This needs to be changed, and when that changes, will the confidence and the how you will see the girl bloom, with and exude confidence, and that is what is needed. And I am glad that it is happening. It is happening. It's slowly happening in our country. We just need to look here and there, but we need to do more. Thanks. I hope I've answered you,
Yes, ma'am.
Barkisa.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so ma'am, you've not only highlighted one other psychological concept over here, but then that again is very tragic that we suffer from it so much, the concept of gaslighting. And it has come to the fore now, the youth is aware of it, our mothers were not aware of it. And the same psychology and the same psychiatric practices have been somehow propagating not only in our own houses and the houses of our friends maybe, or women in general. So you also talked about the problem of not having safe spaces for women, which also again creates a tarnish or taints the confidence of women. So I feel it is not only the cisgender women, we also need to pay attention towards the transgender women. In this regard, I also have a question that what strategic options can be pursued by the government in redressing their grievances and mainstreaming the trans women of Pakistan to instill in them the confidence that they are not merely the recipients of development, and rather they can also lead from the front if they want.
Dekho, Eamon, I think that it's not just the government's, we shouldn't put this particular aspect on the government's shoulder. And I think government has done a little bit. It has moved. I mean, we in 2010, the Supreme Court gave trans people, kind of recognition. And with recognition, there were given some, not facilities, but they were like recognized that they should be given work and all that, even if it isn't right now at a quota level. But in 2017, what happened was that there was undercounting of trans people, which was not entirely the fault of the government, but because and I spoke to the transgender community, and they said that part of it was that the trans community was not aware of the census. The families were not ready, even if if there were trans people in their families, the family was not ready to let this out. So a lot of it has to do with us and our society. We need to be more. We are already tolerant of these people, but we need to consider them as one of us. And I don't know why I'm talking about them and us. I think that's wrong. I'm not really putting it well. But I just think that okay, what I'm saying is that we cannot just leave it to the government. We need to handle this is for all of us to handle, and we need to handle it with gravitas and better recognition of them. And when we do that, they will become more confident, and they will become an asset for our society and our country. And I think that I'll end here.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. Recognition and also also making a space for them. Yes, true. Ma'am, one other question, that since agriculture and rural development has also dominated our today's theme, so what do you think? Two things actually. What kind of social development assets and skills are required to enhance women's voice and bargaining power socially, psychologically, and economically? And then coming to the rural development aspect, how can the small scale women-led agri-businesses become instrumental in developing the rural landscape?
I'll talk about the agriculture part here, that how can small women-led agri-business become an asset for rural development. So what, and this has already been said by, I think, Shaheen Saiba, that if we when women, there are very few women farmers, but even if there are, or even if we want them to become farmers, for example, we need to provide them. Right now, they have limited access to labor. Like a man farmer would find very easy to get farm hands and hire them, and women will not. So we need to make this an enabling environment that they are able to get hired labor, that it is easier for them to rent out equipment that they need. They should know where to rent it out from. But technology also plays a very big part, and we need to kind of, gear the women towards using technology to their as an asset for them. We need to provide them training, like Shaheen Saga said, that in veterinary, when vets go, they talk to men, and that's how they talk to them about livestock management. But it is women who are rearing, so even that is skewed. We need to change that. And it is being changed. I believe it is being changed. As I talked about the mandi, but it is not just the mandi where women are selling livestock. Women are also, vaccinating. And I talked to women, they were vaccinating their livestock themselves. They were, selling, if they were, taking, milking karte hain, milking karke, they were even adding more value to it by making cheese, paneer, and making ghee and selling that. So actually, if you promote that more, but how can you promote that? You need to also make sure that woman is free to do all that, right? Kuch to burden ghar ka bhi to usse, you take the burden off from her, from the home care and child care and elderly care, for her to do this business. So I think these are, make it, sexual harassment, se unko save them from that, which happens, violence, save them from violence. Then as I said, that unki responsibilities, if we, reduce their other work responsibility, then I think that you can really make this work for them. Yeah.
Or we could at least.
Can I just take a minute?
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
I think one start can be kitchen gardening in every school. Let mothers be involved, because I saw in China many times that you see our education system is not very happy about working with your own hands. And kitchen gardening can be a good way where mothers and children can come and you say, okay, we'll give you 1/3 of this, or whatever your child plants. Because we have to go back to agriculture. It is essential that we remember that we are becoming soon going to be a hunger, we are water stressed, and we are going
Food
to be
insecure
food
country.
stressed soon.
Yeah.
So schools are very important, where we can learn these things, and mothers and youngsters can be made a part of it. We are doing it in most of our schools. They're not many, but still we are trying to make them understand the relevance of growing your own fruits and vegetables. Sorry, taking over your time.
Thank you for your comment, ma'am. Rather a statement worth noticing. So, ma'am Zofian, so आपने जो बातें की उसमें एक चीज I'd just like to add over here is कि okay fine, if a woman, at least अगर if her responsibilities ka burden is not being reduced. And if she herself is confident enough to reclaim her space that has been bestowed to her by nature itself in terms of her fundamental rights or some other social rights, etc. So at least we should be working towards accepting that gradually. Having said that, I've read your contribution in the new book, an anthology of many interesting point of views that goes by the name of Women's Planning. वहाँ पर जो आपका chapter है, एक तो although well researched and very interesting read and very powerful in itself. मैम वहाँ पर एक थीम आपने टच की है, the growing of stresses upon women in the wake of climate change. So इस एंगल से what could you suggest कि how could we mitigate the challenges and the woes and augment the livelihood options for women?
You know, Mera ek hi, I mean, there's just one way of doing this is educating young women. And I just think that education is such a powerful tool. It overcomes so many of our issues, and it'll kind of resolve many of our issues. Everything, it'll resolve a lot of it, because with education will come enlightenment. And I believe in that strongly. That, you know, that's the strongest thing you can do for women in the wake of climate change. And universities need to engage more with women in STEM subjects. Right now it is dominated by male students. We need to empower women and bring them to the decision-making tables. You know, when, I don't know if men here will agree with me, but I think that when women come into boardrooms, they actually make long-term decisions. Wiser to dono karte honge. We can say that the men make wiser decisions, and so do women. But women have an edge. They see what is going to happen in future, and because they have been playing this role at home, and that is the reason. That is an asset that comes. So. And in any case, you know, the emergency is such, the climate change emergency is such that why are we not making use of the 50% of the human capital? So I think that I think that we need to use them, we need to equip them, and the way we equip them is by giving them education. We need to bring more women as scientists, more women in policy making, and again, as I said, lift some of their burdens.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time and your explanations of questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our webinar now. But before that, we have this question answer segment. So, आप में से जिसका भी कोई भी सवाल है या कोई statement है that you think can add value towards the bettering of the status quo, so please go ahead and do share it with us. Thank you. It's up to you. आपने unmute करके बात करनी है, आप उस तरह भी कर सकते हैं. You'd just like to drop in a question in the chat box, please go ahead. Okay, so this question is, how can women boost the confidence in women in this era when we are connect with a single click? What are those platforms? अच्छा, so basically जो मैं डिसाइड कर सक रही हूँ ये क्वेश्चन ये पूछना चाह रही है कि in this highly advanced technological social media के दौर में what options can we use या make to our advantage to develop confidence of women, right? यही है पूछना चाह रही है रुखसाना. Okay जी, कोई इसका जवाब देगा? We have two women in the house who can speak for it. It's either Ma'am Shaheen, Atiku, Rahman, or Ma'am Zofian.
I'd just like to give my take on it. I think women must support women. Wherever you see issues of domestic violence and all, you will see the mother-in-law not being very friendly with the daughter-in-law. The jealousies are the biggest problem born and not a son. You saw what happened in Mia Valley. A 7-year-old girl was shot by the father because she was not a boy. Now, these 7 days old only. So we have to make women understand that you must support other women. This egocentric, like I told you, living in silos, thinking we are special, feeling jealous of each other. I've seen people rip each other apart if you're wearing the same suit. For God's sake, look at the bigger issue. This starts at home. When you get married, at once the ego comes. Raja Inder, spouse, he loves to play both of each against each other. But why don't the women get together? Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. So we have to start with women, to look after women, to support women, to understand that jealousy will not take you away. You can see so many answers, so many examples where a mother after tool for her daughter-in-law. So we also have to rethink ourselves. We can't put the blame on the macho side of life. We have to start rethinking from our homes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, lately, now women have started to voice their opinions. It is not only that उनका downfall start होता है after so personally I have come across many cases where the woman or the daughter of the house also feels very browbeaten by the overall treatment that is being done to her by the female members of the immediate family, the blood family. So उन चीजों को भी अब consideration में लाने की जरूरत है, ठीक है? Okay, now we have another question by गुलाम जिलानी साहब. अच्छा सर, आपका question तो मैंने पढ़ लिया है, but would it not be better अगर ये आप kindly unmute करके खुद बोल दीजिए, because it would be better in terms of clarifying the question. What's the main role of women in East and West cultural background? इसको थोड़ा सा please.
As per my perceived understanding, I mean, when a woman used to wear shuttlecock veils, they were not educated. And over a period of time, when they have little education, they changed over from shuttlecock veil to a black veil, And then afterwards, when they have an access in studying in universities, they became more confident, and they remove that veil and, and have the dupatta. So that is the main thing, unless and until a woman gets an education, so strong education helps to know her rights, So keeping in view West and East, the main difference is the education, and I will 100% agree with the Zofian Ibrahim. She has already pointed it out. It's the education. So I mean, over a period of time, when we take into consideration East and West culture, it is the education. Unless and until we educate our women, and our girls, we cannot have an empowerment of. Ayman,
Hi.
sorry.
Since 2006. So I'd like to have a very quick perspective on what I feel is the difference between uh, women in Pakistan and women in Singapore. I think the issue can fundamentally start with the how we classify what a citizen means. What a citizen means in Singapore versus what a citizen means in Pakistan. I feel that along the way, the gap of why there's only perhaps only 25% of people actually contribute to the GDP. And I've listened to everyone very straight on point, very true. And there is intrinsically a problem here about how we perceive women and how we stereotype women, and essentially that spreads. And unfortunately, many times it starts from the family and it proceeds all the way into the culture, and then it leads up to the working environment. I've been a former C-suite officer, and I agree that the female as a customer is usually not looked at. Uh, and it is a very paternal driven culture. Uh, Education is the answer, but access to education is more important. The ability to generate an infrastructure that creates access to education is what is fundamentally putting Pakistan behind with regard to its ability or its inability to use 50% of its workforce. Until the women of the country do not contribute or not put in a position where they can contribute to the GDP, they are not going to be able to. Women in Pakistan are possibly amongst the lowest income earners of the country. And in the corporate sector, they are paid possibly up to 30 to 50% less than their male counterparts. So intrinsically, it's a cognition problem where people perceive inherently due to a generational issue, women are inferior. And that is outright not true, right? So I feel at the end of the day, the real issue here is how do we create a sustainable platform whereby women are encouraged to participate, are encouraged to do an education, where the families of poor people or the poor families are encouraged to send their daughters to school. So it's all about really trying to disrupt and reinvent the culture to actually give that status back to women, because inherently it is men that took status away from the woman. And I agree with Bertie Saab. I mean, I think in our religion it is fundamentally true that the Prophet has given equality to the woman, but unfortunately, due to how perhaps religion has intertwined in politics, perhaps I cannot really comment about that. But what I do feel is until we don't look at creating access, until we don't improve public policy, until we don't make legalize certain abuses that happen to women, it's not going to change. So inherently, we need to humanize Pakistan. We need to humanize every citizen into becoming an equal stakeholder in the country. I believe often citizenry is divided between a Muslim and a majority and a minority. So these are the things which inherently affect the growth of a country. So that's my take on the matter, and I agree that at the end of the day, food security is one of the greatest challenges Pakistan faces. And I think as a startup founder myself, I think inherently within my plan itself, it is important. It will be very important to me to actually create the culture to support more women entrepreneurs and at the same time create more access to education. I've been very surprised that in my travels and going into these smaller cities, I've been delighted to actually see, a lot of girls in schools, and they speak a lot better English than some people in Lahore, and it's remarkable. So essentially, I agree with everybody, and I hope at some point in time we can all collectively create a change, because I think conversations take time to evolve. But I think Ayman is right. The pandemic has given the right impetus for women to actually get their status back and get their equality back. And mental health is indeed a problem in Pakistan. You only have one psychologist for every 500,000 citizens. So you can consider that you have one vaccine for 500,000 people when it comes to mental health management. So I think all the points addressed are actually the issues here. So at some point in time, Pakistan will need an action plan to enable that this actually happens. It will need a unified plan, because I do believe that women matter in the country, and everywhere across the line, there has to be a unified message sent across. Otherwise, I don't think it will work. That's my opinion.
थैंक यू प्रताप साहब, आपने तो एक तरह से यूडीएचआर को, यूनिवर्सल डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स को एक तरह से समराइज ही करके बता दिया। उसके अंदर गवर्नेंस भी आ जाती है, लीगल फ्रेमवर्क्स भी आ जाते हैं, नीड फॉर पब्लिक पॉलिसी भी आ जाता है, जनरल सोशियो इकोनॉमिक फ्रेमवर्क्स आ जाते हैं, सारी चीजें ही बता दी हैं। सो थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर दैट। इट वाज अ होलिस्टिक समरी पूरे सेशन की ही उस तरह आपने। वुड एनीवन लाइक टू मेक अ पॉइंट या क्वेश्चन जो था क्या वो एड्रेस हो गया है, या मुझे तो पर्सनली लगा कि वो खुद ही आपने उसको आंसर भी कर दिया था?
Yes, I mean, you have quickly pointed it out. I have answered my own question. And this my Sri Lankan friend, has also, I mean, what you call it, highlighted. I mean, having access to the education. That was the very important aspect. He has taken into consideration. And I'm grateful to him. For pointing it out. Uh, Thank you. I mean, I'm
Not a
grateful.
problem.
थैंक यू सर। मैम आप कुछ कहना चाह रही हैं?
I think we have gone a long way, Randhawa sir, than before, because you've been living in Sri Lanka for long. But I tell you,
I'm
it was
from Singapore. I'm from Singapore.
that's it.
I-
Straight.
I'm a Singaporean. Yes, I'm
Okay.
I'm a Singapore citizen. I've been living in Pakistan for 16 years.
You look a bit younger than that.
Wow.
There were times moved forward.
Correct.
Girls in schools, more in everything, and you have symbolic a lot of push to get women. We have an AI number 2 of the police now. She's a woman. We have jet fighter pilots, but it takes time evolution.
Yeah.
And if our neighbors stopped interfering in our work, we would go faster. Look at the interference we have with everything. We go 2 steps forward and the jealousy brings us back again. So we want time. We are getting time, but believe me, the women of Pakistan government are not told us you have a role to play, and we are playing it. So I'm sorry, I know it doesn't mean not like America or even Singapore or anything, but with all the differences, we are moving ahead. People are getting better. We have very good, strong women as ministers and all. So give us time.